Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host as always, Daniel Levi, and joining me now is your boy, Eryk Anders. Eryk, what's going on, man?
Hi, brother. How's it going?
It's going amazing. How's everything going for you?
Man, I can't complain, man. Picked up a win inside the UFC. Just got back from vacation last week, so man, everything's going according to plan.
I mean, dude, there's no more top prospect Eryk Anders. There's no more, we got to look at this guy in the UFC. Now, you just went in there against the guy that went the distance with the champ Robert Whittaker. You finished him right away. I mean, was that what you expected?
Yeah, every time I get in there, I expect a finish. Expect to get a victory and get a finish. I think his last fight was I guess it was Tim Bosch. And just watching film and stuff, saw some holes in his game. We were able to pick up on. The fight before this against Brendan Allen, I kind of smothered myself, if you will. I dropped Brendan Allen and then jumped right on top of Brendan, and took a lot of power off my punches when you're in close like that. But with Natal, I kind of learned my lesson from Brendan Allen. Once I got him rocked, instead of jumping in and getting close, I kept him at an arm's distance and kept him at the end of my punches where all the power is at. And, you see the end result of such.
And speaking of keeping him at the end of your punches, so there was that one moment where you kind of chased him across the octagon. Now, you did that beautifully, throwing the straights there. Now, let me ask you, in the future when you do that, are you thinking ever, man, maybe I could do a flying knee there?
I kind of tried to throw one the first time he stumbled across the mat, but I misgauged the distance and, had to turn it into a kick and ended up putting my shin across his nose.
Hey, that'll work, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'll take it how I get it.
So there was also a moment when you were on top of him. I'm not talking about the finishing sequence. I'm talking about the first time you heard him. And I'm not entirely sure if he was, out of it and he was just going on his jiu-jitsu instincts, but he was kind of trying to sneak out the back door, maybe trying to do a little sweep. I know you know what I'm talking about. When you were on top of him, were you like, man, this guy is a little squirmy, a little sneaky, or were you just like, he's hurt, I'm going to finish him?
Like I said, I'm always looking for the finish. Whenever I was on top of him, I was very surprised at the lack of strength there. Like he didn't feel like much when I was on top, so our game plan, of course, was to keep it on the feet and, go for the finish. But when he was on the ground and I was on top, there's very little resistance. And, I just try to stay on top, stay in a good position where I could land some punches. And, he was able to get up. He's a black belt, well accomplished. So I'm sure being on his back was like second nature to him anyway. So, able to land a knee to the chest there on the way up, and then shortly thereafter that gets the finish.
Definitely. Now, I know you're a very competitive guy, very mentally strong, so this probably had zero effect on you, but I have to ask you anyways, because he does live in New York, he does teach in New York, he's got his jiu-jitsu academy there. Was it at all, kind of weird that, most of the people there were rooting for him?
Man, not at all. And to be honest with you, out of all the fights I've had, amateur and pro, that was probably the calmest, most focused, and the most mental clarity I've had out of all my fights for that particular occasion. And I truly believe that the more pressure, the more hostile the environment, the better I perform. So, I'm looking to go to, I'm looking to fight 2 more times before the year finishes out. And, man, we'll see what happens, man. I'm looking to go 3-0 before the end of the year in the UFC.
So, I mean, you've had quick turnarounds in the past, but one doesn't simply do, a 5-round championship fight and then go fight a month later, but that's exactly what you did. I mean, were you banged up at all? I mean, we couldn't tell.
My left hand was a little injured. That's the second fight the UFC had offered me, to be honest with you. Like a week after my fight, they offered me Trevin Giles with me. My hand was swollen and puffy and stuff, so there's no way I could do that. Then, a few weeks later, they came with like a 10-day notice against Natal. I mean, you can't say no twice to the guys. And
yeah.
I've been icing my hand, training, slush bucketing, and even doing cryotherapy on my hand. And, it just felt so much better. And like I said, you can't say no twice. So if we got to get in there at 60%, 70%, then that's just what we'll do. But like I said, I don't think I've ever felt better mentally, physically, or emotionally than I had before that Natal fight.
Dude, is it a blessing in disguise that you turned down that Trevin Giles fight? And the reason I ask is because, look, we both know Trevin Giles is a super tough guy. That's not the point, though. The point is, if you fought him, that'd be the first fight on Fight Pass, no one there. But Natal, that's a guy everyone knows, and you got to compete on Fox.
Well, I think that the biggest plus side of fighting Natal over Giles is that now you have two guys in the aging middleweight division that are coming up. Natal was like ranked number 25 in the division in the world. So, going out there and getting a victory certainly looks more impressive than a win over Trevin Giles. And there's no doubt in my mind that we'll both meet later on down the road. But he's a great fighter who's only getting better. I think he's only like 24, 25 years old. So he's definitely got a lot of plus side too.
So, man, I'm looking at the top 15 in the UFC middleweight division. I don't see the name Eryk Anders there. I'm kind of disappointed, but it's going to come soon. But, man, there's some guys that, are coming off wins that I want to know your opinion on, man, because I just saw Smiling Sam Alvey fight Rashad Evans, and Sam Alvey, he's got a lot of wins in the UFC. He's got a name. What do you think about a potential matchup with him?
Yeah, I'd love to fight Sam Alvey. Not a problem. I'd love to chip that smile up a little bit that he's got. And go out there and knock him out too.
And then there's another guy I saw, and his name's Elias Theodorou. He also has a lot of wins in the UFC. He actually has a win over Smiling Sam, over Cesar Mutanch. What do you think about a fight with that guy?
Man, I sent out a tweet yesterday wanting to fight him. I want to fight him in New York, in Madison Square Garden in November. I'd like to fight Jack Marshman in Philly, October 16th, I believe it is. Or September 16th, and then turn around and fight again in November. But I think they're going to Toronto in December. So if Elias doesn't respond to fighting in in Madison Square Garden, maybe I go across the border there and beat him up in Toronto.
What excites you more? Because when you talk about a guy like Marshman, we're looking at a guy that comes to brawl every single time. He's a real fighter. And then with Elias, I'm not going to sit here and say someone that steps inside the octagon is not a real fighter. I would never disrespect a man like that. But, he tries to, in a sense, avoid the fight and still win, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
whatever. He's got his tactics. He's got his style. He's got his, whatever's been working for him. I think he's 23 or, in that 23-20 range in the world. So, a win over him would definitely put me up there with those guys. And, I think I knock him out too. And if I don't knock him out, then I TKO him on the ground. So the Marshman fight really excites me because those kind of fights are exciting to watch and be a part of. You get in there and slug it out. He's more of a brawler. I think I'm more of a boxer, if you will. So, I definitely think that matchup also favors myself as well. But, I'd like to fight both those guys.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, we know the deal with Marshman. He comes to fight every time. But if you were to fight Elias, I mean, do you have a specific game plan of how to deal with someone that's going to try to push you up against the fence for 15 straight minutes?
Man, I'm cool in any aspect of the fight. Where I'm on the feet, on my back against the cage, their back against the cage. I'm capable of winning the fight anywhere inside the octagon there. So, I'm sure that'll be his game plan to kind of get my leg pregnant there and whatever. I'll come with my pregnancy test and in my left hand, and we'll see who walks out of there.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Elias's opponents have to take Plan B the next day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Matt, we talked about this in the past, and it's funny because Mayweather's fighting McGregor, right? And before I saw that footage of McGregor and Paulie, I was saying stuff like, "Oh, McGregor couldn't even touch an amateur boxer, this and that." Now I know Paulie's a guy that he's completely on his way out. He's been knocked out a million times, this and that. I was still impressed to see Conor beat the shit out of a guy like that because I didn't think that he would do that. Not saying it changes my opinion for the Mayweather fight because it doesn't, but what does it do for your opinion seeing him do that against a legitimate boxer?
Man, it doesn't do anything for me personally. One, because I know I've seen like sparring get out of hand before. Like we're just touching. Like I don't know what kind of rules they had in place. We'll go 50%, 70%. If they were going 100%, they'd agree to that or not. But I've seen guys like go a little bit faster than they said they were going to do. Say they were going to go and do that to guys before. So I don't know the entire situation. Still not too impressed with Connor's technical work. His mechanics and stuff. Paulie Floyd. Now, there's light years of difference between those two. So I think the same thing though. If Connor touches Floyd with his left hand, especially now they're talking about 8-ounce gloves. Very short fight for Floyd, and he'll leave out of there with the loss on his record.
That would be amazing. But I mean, obviously,
my money's on Connor. Don't get it twisted. My money's on Connor.
Oh yeah,
I would love a come up. So whatever. I don't think it ruins the sport of boxing or taints Floyd's record. I mean, of course it does, but at the same time, man, that guy's 40 years old fighting a 27-year-old. Who's much bigger and stronger than he is, and he accepted the fight. He signed on the dotted line and all, but whatever. Let's see what Conor can do to Canelo or somebody like that. Canelo's a pretty big guy too.
Yeah, no, I don't want any of that. This matchup specifically is interesting for a reason because
Sure.
Canelo's a power puncher. I kind of don't want Conor in there with real boxers. Not Floyd's the best of all time, but the style is what's interesting about it.
At the same time, though, he gets in there with Canelo, who doesn't move and isn't as swift as Floyd is. Man, Canelo runs a chance of getting his ass knocked out too. Floyd's got a hell of a Conor's got a hell of a left hand. You've seen that time after time. Certainly a big difference between MMA gloves and boxing gloves, but 8-ounce gloves, that's not much, man.
Very true, very true. Well, Eryk, man, thanks again for the time as always on Half the Battle, man. It's always great to talk to you. Any message for the fans? Anything you want to tell them before we get out of here?
Man, I'd love for people to, start getting the word out about the Elias Theodorou fight in Madison Square Garden. I think that the Madison Square Garden Arena is one of the most prestigious arenas in America, if not the world. So, to get a fight there, go out there and knock out a top 20 guy, it'd be awesome. So, man, that'd be great. Social media is also a big thing and getting matchups going and whatnot. So, man, if that could happen, that's the fight I'm really looking for. Marshman's a bonus, but the Theodorou fight's the one I really want.
Yeah, definitely. So for all the fans listening, make sure you follow Eryk at Eryk Anders and campaign for that Elias Theodorou versus Eryk Anders fight at MSG because it needs to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, and if it doesn't, then I'll come to Toronto. I got a passport ready and whatnot. Go across the border there, go north, and beat them up in Toronto. It doesn't really matter. I just, Madison Square Garden is pretty badass, and that's where I want the next fight to be.
Yes, sir. You got to do it at least one time, and the reason I say one time is because they tax like a bitch over there. So just do it now, early in your career.
I already fought in New York. My last fight was in New York.
Yeah.
So it's whatever.
You already know that.
Yeah.
For sure.
I already know New York busting heads. So, man, it's all good though, man. The money will come in the tail end of my career anyway. So, I just want to go out there and knock out Theodorou in Madison Square Garden. It's pretty badass.
Well, that's what we want to see, Eryk. Thanks so much for the time as always, man, and congrats on the success, man.
I appreciate it, bro. I look forward to talking to you again.